In this session, we're going to look at an introduction to cost accounting. Basically, I'm starting a new course. It's cost accounting. So the first session in any course is to kind of basically explain the basic concept. So we're going to start by looking at the basic terminology just to make sure we understand the basic concept. Then we're going to talk a little bit more about the discipline itself. What does it entails? Then we will proceed by looking at more details. So this is basically the big picture. So the first thing we're going to define is few terms that we need to be familiar with. First of all, who are management or cost accountant? Now, I'm going to be using the term cost and management accountant interchangeably, so hopefully you can live with that. So who are those people? Those people are professionals, finance or accounting professionals who develop cost management information, which we're going to see what this is, to assist in implementing the organizational strategy. So they devise a system to help the company achieve their strategy, whatever their strategy is. So the system is cost management information. So what is cost management information? Well, cost management information consists of both financial and non-financial information. It's not only numbers. They do look at other non-financial information to help the company achieve their strategy that is developed and used to implement, again, the organizational strategy. So very important key to remember is cost management information has non-financial information that's not financial in nature. For example, customer satisfaction. And we'll look at that later on. Just I want to make sure you're aware of that. Now, what is cost management? Cost management is a development and use of cost management information by management accountant. So when we use the system, it's called cost management. Now, how does the IMA define management accountant? Now, what is the IMA? The IMA is the organization that oversees, the professional organization that oversees management and cost accounting. The Institute of Management Accountant. Basically, it's the equivalent of the AICPA. If you're practicing public accounting, you have the AICPA, which is the professional organization that oversees the industry. The IMA is the equivalent of the AICPA, but it's for management accountant. So how do they define the term, the discipline management accounting, or again, cost accounting? It's a profession that involves, again, we're going to be repeating the same thing, partnering and management decision making, devising, planning, and performance management system, and providing expertise in financial reporting and control to assist, again, management. So we are partnering with management. So it's a group of people that study numbers and financial and non-financial that's going to help the manager in the formulation and implementation of the organizational strategy. So basically everything that we said earlier. So management accountant are people that use financial and non-financial information to help management make decision, planning, and control. Now, the first thing you want to be aware of is the primary users of this information. The primary users of management or cost accounting are internal users. And why do I need to define this? Because remember, we have internal users who are management, CEO, CFO, directors, and we have external users. External users are creditors, investors, suppliers, bankers, anyone that's outside the company, customers as well. So the information that we provide through management accountant focuses on the internal users because it's the reason for it, again, is to help management make a better decision, not to provide external users with valid information. It doesn't mean the information that we provide internally, it's not used for external users, but we don't publish this information. So the target of management accountant are the management. Okay, so what does that mean? It means the scope of questions, answers are much more in details. So management accounting, what they try to do, they'll try to answer specific questions that is of the company needs, such as who are our customers? Okay, what does our product looks like? Which product should we sell? Maybe information about certain region, profitability of a certain region. So the answers are very specific to specific segment and specific product within the company. Okay, and when we prepare externally, we report the revenue overall. We don't really break it down. And if we break it down, it's not that much aggregated. It's not that much in detail. But management accountant, they go into the detail of things. And remember, each business is different. Therefore, I cannot tell you exactly what, but this is the overall picture. Maybe customer, product, region, so on and so forth. One thing you want to remember is Usefulness and timeliness is important aspect of management accounting. You want to provide useful information to management, and you want to provide it in a timely fashion. Therefore, they produce the right product, they sell it in the right market, because it has to be useful and timeliness. Otherwise, if we get the information late, it's not really useful. To also, what we need to know is management accountant is not GAAP, does not follow GAAP. What does that mean? It means we don't have hard rules that we follow, just like GAAP. For example, this is how we have to prepare a certain financial statement. We don't have to follow this. So it's basically the rules depending on the business needs. What is our need as a business? And we'll follow those rules. So you're not going to see that this is how we prepare a financial statement. This is what we need to disclose. It all depends on technically what management wants us to do to achieve our organizational goal. And this could be kind of difficult for some students because they want strict rules, how to prepare financial statements. Well, it doesn't mean we don't learn specific rules, but in the real world, there's no strict adherence to those rules. So the discipline is not really very strict. It all depends on the company need. It all depends on the company need. And from an organizational perspective, this is basically a typical organizational chart. Basically, cost accountant, this is where they fit. This is a typical organization. So at the CEO, the CFO, and under the CFO, we have the controller. Now, sometimes they may not be in that order specifically, but usually it's an accounting function. Cost management is under the accounting function of the controller. This is where they fit. And the reason you want to see where they fit, because you want to see overall, how do they serve the company? How do they serve the company? Well, they're going to help management, cost management. So they're going to help the company. So cost management information is needed for each of the following 4 management functions. So management does 4 things, and they're going to help in those 4 management functions. 1 is strategic management, 2, planning and decision making, 3 is management and operational control, and 4 is the preparation of financial statements. And we're going to cover each one of those separately, just kind of real quick, just to see how management accountant fit in the picture of the company. First, strategic management. Well, usually strategic management is the most important function for management because they're planning to draw the big pictures. It involves identifying, implementing goals and plans to maintain the competitive advantage. Whatever your competitive advantage is, we'll talk about that later. So we're looking at the big picture. What could be some examples of strategic management is basically which product we should choose, which manufacturing method we should employ, which marketing technique we should use, how should we distribute our product, what is our customer profitability, and other long-term issues. So the strategic management is looking at the big picture, and cost management accountant, they do help us in that function. They do help tremendously because they're going to be giving us information about the product. So this is strategic management. Also, after we draw the strategic management, we have to implement. And how do we do this? Planning and decision making. We have to make decision on a day-to-day basis, support reoccurring decisions. So management accountant, they do help in that, such as scheduling production and how to price a product, repairing and replacing equipment. Should we replace? Should we repair? What should be the decision? Basically, capital budgeting decision. How to manage our cash, managing our cash flow. When do we need cash? Should we borrow up front? Should we have a line of credit? How much interest rate we should pay? All these decisions, they would help us. Also, when we produce, we need to budget. We need to budget raw material. We need to budget purchasing. All these decisions, management accountant or cost accountant, they play an important role in that. Also, they play a role in management and operational control. Basically, what does that mean? It means cost management is needed to provide a fair and effective basis for identifying inefficient operation. If something's going wrong, management accounting, they're going to tell us we are producing items at a much higher cost than, for example, our competitors or than the prior periods. And also, it's going to tell us who's doing a good job because it's going to break down the product by division, by a specific unique identifier. So it's going to tell us if a manager is doing a good job or not. So basically, what's going to happen, it's going to help us identify good practices and good employees. And by default, tell us if they're telling us what are the good practices and who are the good employees, they're going to tell us by default who are not doing a good job. Therefore, we take corrective actions. So it helps you in operational control, management control, operational control. And the fourth function is preparing financial statements. Now, you might be saying this is the role of financial accounting, not management accounting, but yet we still need management information because, for example, when we price inventory is a function of management accounting. We need to know how much something is costing us. So information is needed to guarantee compliance with regulatory and reporting agencies such as the IRS, the SEC, because cost management is needed for inventory, to price something, cost of goods sold, and we're going to see inventory and cost of goods sold. Many things goes into those two figures. Actually, inventory turns into a cost of goods sold. But before we determine the inventory, especially in a manufacturing environment, many things goes into inventory. We're going to see that later: direct labor, direct material, manufacturing overhead. And when manufacturing overhead, we're going to have a list of items. So cost management, they do help us in preparing those financial report for external users, okay, as well as helping in the other free management function, because financial reporting covers everything else. So if you want to summarize, there's a strategic focus. There's the strategic focus from a cost management perspective. Once again, let's wrap it up. The focus of cost management is working with management, again, partnering with management to achieve the company's strategies, whatever that competitive environment is, and implementing its strategy to succeed in that environment. Now, how do we do it? We're going to see later, example, but this is the big picture. This often means using all the organizational resources, which is financial and non-financial information, to identify and satisfy customers' need. Okay, so the strategic emphasis often requires creative and integrating thinking from a cross-functional viewpoint. So management accountant, they have to work with everyone. They have to work with customer service department. They have to work with our marketing people. They have to work with the suppliers. They have to work with everyone. So it's a cross-functional viewpoint. So this is basically an introduction of the role of cost management. And this phase, as we go throughout the course, we're going to be emphasizing on those main points. This is basically the big picture.